Tokyo subway packed with commuters in the midst of a pandemic. Japan entered a state of emergency on the 7th of April, but there's been no European-style lockdown, and teleworking is rare in a country that places a high premium on being present in the office.
It's my company that decides, not me.
Every passenger is wearing a mask. The carriage is silent. When the rush hour ends, people are able to distance themselves from others. But a form of social distancing was in place in Japan long before the outbreak.
We don't touch each other unless we date. So yeah, that's actually like contributing to the prevention of coronavirus. Yeah, so I think the biggest difference between our country, Japan, and also your country, France, is just the amount of kissing and hugging and shaking hands.
The Covid-19 mortality rate in Japan has been relatively low, even though it was one of the first countries to be affected by the virus. While Paris and New York have been under lockdown, Tokyo can seem almost normal. Even communal bathing continues, as most neighbourhood public baths, called sento, have stayed open. I don't have a bathtub at my place, so I don't have a choice. I have to come here several times a week. Sento bathers have to observe a strict set of rules to ensure their visit is as hygienic as possible. They must scrub themselves clean before rinsing off and stepping into the bath. First we do our hair and then our body, and then we get in the bath. The manager says the risk of contracting the virus is negligible. The piping hot water is regularly disinfected. Your body warms up in the bath, and it's said that this helps strengthen your immunity. We ask all of our customers to keep a sensible distance from one another when they're in the bath. But strict hygiene standards aren't enough. The number of coronavirus infections in Japan has risen sharply since the beginning of April, particularly in big cities. Relatively few people are tested, so the actual number of infections is thought to be much higher than the official count. As a proportion of the population, France has so far tested 8 times as many people as Japan, and Germany 20 times as many. Japan doesn't conduct large-scale testing, but faced with the rise in infections, it's now testing 4 times as many people a day as it did 2 weeks ago. Many people are critical of the government's approach, especially members of Japan's large older population. 1 in 4 Japanese is aged 65 or over. Sugamo, a Tokyo neighbourhood, is popular among the city's older residents.
It is not easy to see a doctor at the health center. The procedure is complicated. And if there is a coronavirus case at a GP's practice, no one wants to go, even if it's just a rumor.
Unlike in other countries, Japanese authorities are not allowed by law to impose fines or other penalties on people who refuse to stay home. That relaxed approach is partly down to bitter memories of the war, when military authorities cracked down on personal freedoms. Tokyo's money-spinning nightlife scene is quieter, but many places are still open for business. Restaurant, club and bar owners worry about losing money if they close their doors. This young pop idol performed at 5 events in March and tested positive for Covid-19 at the beginning of April. The 27-year-old is now in hospital.
Everything went blank, and I started crying. I was full of regret. I felt that I should have stopped working and stayed home. I was doing live concerts in small venues. There were about 100 people packed into a hall at one concert, and afterwards I shook hands with several fans, and we chatted at a close distance.
Late last month, people were still picnicking in parks, enjoying the country's famed cherry blossoms. But those carefree days are over. As Japan prepares for several days of public holidays, the message from the government is clear: stay home and save lives.